Welcome back to The Evil Within. This is The Evil Within 2, and we are in Chapter 4 of the game, about to enter the grounds of the City Hall, where we will work on Sometimes Fighting Isn't the Answer. That achievement will unlock around the middle of the video, so that gives us some time to go back to the conversation we were having in the previous video. Previous episode, we found a model of Union, and that was a revelation, right? That's all the difference in the world between the Beacon stem and the Union stem. In the Beacon stem, the core was responsible for taking the subconscious memories, the subconscious inputs from everybody that was connected to stem and rendering a world from those memories. That was Ruben's stated goal, is to build a world for himself from his own memories that he and his sister Laura, from his own memories, could live in. This is a very different beast. This is a model. It's not taking the input from Sebastian to say what is Union. It knows what Union is. It has a model of Union. Sebastian is experiencing that model. His perception of that model and what's going on in that model is what the core is now responsible for. The core is freed up from the day-to-day rendering of a brick, for instance. It no longer cares about the brick. It only cares that Sebastian is in a place where he would be seeing the brick, that his perception of the brick is that it is a brick. So the Lego set is Union, is whole and complete. It's a virtual reality model that does not rely on any of the subconsciouses tied to it. But that model only provides so much, right? I mean, you have a model of, for instance here, City Hall up ahead of us. It's got a tower on it. The model is providing all of that. And that is being rendered to the subconscious of Sebastian by the system. But what the system doesn't know is what Sebastian thinks about that. Does he think that's a grandiose building? Does he think it's a modest building, etc.? And here in Chapter 5, Sebastian is seeing a world that's falling apart. That drift is being caused not by the model being inconsistent or because conflicting memories of what the model is from the people that are attached to it, but instead it's being caused because the perceptions of the model are beginning to drift. The people that are still alive, the people that are still inside of Union, all of that input of how that model's going, that this person's walking here, that person's walking there, that they think Broadway is the next street after Main Street, but it's not, Speedway is, etc. All those things are not being reconciled by the core. Their perceptions are not being fed into the model, and the model is not meeting their perceptions anymore because it's stale, it's stagnant. Think of it as like a jet airliner, a Boeing 747 flying across the continental United States, and all the engines just go out. That's what's happened. Union was the Skyliner flying across the United States, and the core, its engines just went out. Now that disconnect of the engines, at first everything sort of works as it would normally work. Aerodynamics is still aerodynamics. The plane is still moving through the air is flowing across the wings, that's providing the lift. The rudders, the flaps, everything is still working on the aerodynamics scale. But what is missing now is the thrust. And the thrust is the perception of the model in this case. In the sense of a stem, the virtual reality, the thrust of the plane is your perception. Those that are connected, your perceptions are driving the model. Any changes in the model are being driven by that. Just the same as the engines are pushing the plane through the sky. When that thrust stops, the plane starts to drift, and the plane becomes a very large tin can in the sky. It's gonna fall. That's Union.
Yeah, just you wait, asshole.
Photo of Sebastian Castellanos, the guy who took Lily. He must have taken this outside the warehouse. Waiting for you? So he's expecting me.
Now, as we're about to enter the grounds of the City Hall, this is where we work on the achievement, Sometimes Fighting Isn't the Answer. To get this achievement, you have to get into City Hall without engaging with the Guardian. The Guardian's going to appear here in front of you, and you need to get into City Hall without fighting with her. It says fighting with her. Now, I didn't test whether or not you can hit her a few times, snipe her a few times, but not kill her and have the achievement pop. I don't know. We just took the approach of don't fight with her. So, in playing blind, after we killed her, so we couldn't get that achievement here. There's an achievement for killing her here too, so you cannot get both in the exact same run. without, manipulating the save games, reloading the save game and doing both things and picking the one that you want to be the one that goes forward. You could do it that way, but you have to do this scene at least twice, right? Whether it's in a whole run or in a part run, you have to do this scene twice to get both achievements, one for killing her and one for not killing her, or at least not fighting with her. But in the Playing Blind episodes, we wandered around after we killed her, and we determined that the way must be over here on the left. And you can see that there's a pile of boxes, there's some barrels, and there's a van back there. So our theory was all we have to do is get the boxes out of the way, climb up on the van, and that will allow us to go over. Of course, she catches up with us because she saw us run over here. You're going to find out that that's not the case. Brian fell for it. Those barrels are there. They will explode if you shoot them. But since I could not interact with them, I did not think they were exploding barrels. So we're going to spend, a full 6 minutes running around this area trying to find a hole in the fence that we can go through, trying to find a way to climb over the fence, anything to get past that van. Eventually we do figure out you can shoot the barrels and they will explode, and they will explode the van, and then you can go through that area. But okay, so while you humorously watch me try to find holes in fences and climb up trees, etc., let's continue our conversation about the drifting Union model. So already Mobius has provided a much better system than was in the original game, in that they're providing the virtual reality world that you're only interacting with. So the core doesn't have to have quite the processing power that it would have had to have to render and reconcile the conflicts in the memories of 20,000 people. Remember in the last episode, we figured out that they want to grow Union to 20,000 people. And the amount of conflicts that would come from the memories of 20,000 people trying to render even a single small city like this would be almost impossible to reconcile, right? So they've fixed that by they are now providing the model for the world that changed the role of the core from primarily the GPU, if you will, of the rendering engine to more of a bus aggregator, where it's working with a model that it's been given, and it's taking your perceptions of those models and making sure that the world is being rendered consistently to your perceptions of the model, that the model is consistent in your perception of it. Okay, so that's all fair and good. So why are parts of this wonderful stable model floating in the sky? And we've theorized that it's because the core has gone missing. Well, we hadn't theorized that the core went missing. Everybody's told us the core has gone missing. And we've been chasing the residual memories of Lily across Union. So everybody knows the core is missing. Everybody's of the opinion at this point in the game that the reason the core is missing is because the maniac with the camera and the knife was chasing her. That scared her. That caused her to disengage. That would be the term I would use, to disengage from Union itself. That mental disengagement with the community looks like a disengaged, a disconnected core. And there were certain things that were expected to happen when the core disconnects. Mainly that drift that we were talking about just a few minutes ago. That drift of the airplane that's becoming a tin can in the sky. The drift is happening here as the perceptions and the models not being updated, as things are beginning to slide apart, as inputs into the system are no longer being taken into account. Things like City Hall is separating from other parts of Union. That disengagement, everybody believes that's caused by Stefano first chasing and then catching Lily. So the goal is to retrieve Lily from Stefano. Now, of course, Sebastian's goal is to retrieve Lily and get the hell out, right? He doesn't need his daughter to be the core of Union. He needs to get his daughter, and he needs to take her out of this insanity and bring her home. Make a new home for her. Mobius's stated goal is to re-engage the core so that Union can be saved and can go back along its road. All right, so that kind of catches us up on what the storyline is. Our model of how the core's role inside the STEM has changed from the first game to the second game. It's no longer the GPU, it's a bus aggregator taking the inputs and managing the perceptions of the people that are connected. And that's going to be core to more mechanical lore that we're going to talk about now, and also our philosophical discussion that we will have in the classic mode run through. At the end of, or towards the end, well, one other thing to take note of about there being this huge model that's going to house 20,000 people. In the model room, we saw a document saying that Pod, well, we didn't get to see it in this episode. You have to go back to our Playing Blind if you want to actually see it. But in the document that was missing in that room, they talked about needing to ramp up pod production to support the 50% growth of Union in size. Everybody's still connected into a pod. All right, as far as the achievement goes, we just finally figured out to shoot the barrels, and now we have a path into the back. Of course, this is the first time we've gotten to the back of City Hall, so we don't really know what to expect. We see that the explosion has called her, the Guardian. She's coming along here. See the sparks. We're trying to kite her and get a little distance. We're going to run past that. We were hoping that was a camera, but no, it's really just a horn. We'll get around here. That seemed to be a camera, but now these are explosive bolts. You can actually harvest those. You can pick them up. I was hoping to leave them, at least the one that I could get under, to see if that would slow her down a little bit. And the door, we found the door. Takes a little bit to get through. Now in the last episode, we did at the very end finish upgrading Sebastian and got the Stick It In My Veins achievement. That allowed us to pretty much tank that damage from the explosive bolt and from the Guardian there to get through the door. And there's the achievement. Okay, so we've talked about the new role of the core and how Lily has gone missing, that it's a mental disengagement with the community, that she is pulled away from the community, probably mostly because she was hiding from Stefano, running from Stefano, and now Stefano has caught her, is not allowing her to resume the roles of the core, plus she's probably in duress, so she can't really resume the roles of the core. Her roles, when she's actually playing the role of the core, we theorize that she's just a girl inside Union. As long as she's engaged with the community, actively involved in her life, that's all that's required of her to keep everything going. That her childlike mind, an undeveloped, I guess would be the right term, not under. She's probably as developed or more developed than she needs to be for a child her age, but she doesn't have a lot of ego yet. I mean, you know, some children think they're the center of the world, but they don't necessarily think they're the all being of the world, right? So their ego is, you know, maybe a little guileless, a little underdeveloped compared to a full-grown adult. And that's allowing her to just kind of reconcile the world as she goes and participates in it. Her going missing because Stefano has scared her. The team was made up of various individuals, but one of them was a psychiatrist. Yukiko Hoffman is a psychiatrist that was supposed to help reestablish Lily as the core. Probably understanding that it's an emotional or some sort of mental breakdown. And so there's some sort of mental trauma or emotional state that she needs to be reconciled. And a psychiatrist would be the right person to help her do that. So one thing we didn't talk about is the support staff it would require to generate this detailed model. We talked about how detailed the model is, even showing that the sewers is, obviously they're rendering a virtual world at the level that you need a sewer. That's a pretty detailed world. To do that for 20,000 people takes an enormous support staff. Because think about what Sebastian is. Well, let's think about that after we have this conversation with Harris.
Who's there? It's okay. Harrison, right? I'm not one of them.
Who are you?
Don't worry. O'Neill sent me.
I thought I was the only one left.
I'm looking for the core. Where is she? Is she here?
Second floor, the Stable Field Emitter.
Emitter? Forget about that. I'm here to find the core.
You must turn on the emitter. It will stabilize the environment. Without it, Union will completely collapse. Then the core won't matter. Turn it on. It will affect his power.
His power? You mean?
Take this. Use it to turn on the emitter.
Harrison's communicator. Miles Harrison gave you this communicator before he died. It can apparently be used to start up the Stable Field Emitter.
Another team member down. Wish I could have gotten more info. Don't worry, Lily. I'm still gonna find you.
All right, so a stable field emitter, that's almost a confirmation of what we've just been saying. You think about what a stable field emitter implies. That with the core disconnected, there's a device that they can go in and they can stabilize the model. I mean, that's a perfect example of how the lore is consistent. The lore that we're painting is consistent. A stable field emitter, without even the core, would stabilize the model in the local area. So turning on a stable field emitter here in Union would stabilize the entire 3D virtual reality model of Union in this area. That's almost a guarantee statement that our theory of what the role of the core is and the fact that there's a model to the side of the core now makes it just wholly consistent. So Sebastian has a new goal to turn on the stable field emitter, but his main goal is still, of course, to find Lily and get out. Now, just before we had that conversation with Harris, we were talking about what is Sebastian. Remember, Sebastian, we see Sebastian running around what looks like City Hall here, right? It's an empty City Hall, but it's a City Hall, and there's some strange things like this timescape
That's
prism
his MO.
where another
Somewhere
member
here.
of Mobius security forces is floating in air with blood spurting out of his neck. Obviously a sign of Stefano. You also hear Stefano's art gallery music. Now this is playing not inside Stefano's virtual server, but inside the City Hall. So he's able to affect the actual 3D model, the virtual reality model of Union, not just his own virtual server, his art gallery, if you will. But we see Sebastian running around here in City Hall. But Sebastian himself is in a pod back at Mobius. Remember, we've even seen Kidman looking down at the pod from the control center. He's not moving. He's not moving at all. And we've said that the role of the core is to control the perceptions of the person running around the model. There's a certain amount of the model that includes things like physics and most of the rendering. So the City Hall does not depend upon input from the core or input from Sebastian to be real. It's just his perceptions are not being blended into the model by the core. But his body requires something, right? His body's still going to require nourishment. It's still going to produce waste. It's still a living human body.
Roses. Though these flowers are beautiful, something seems off about them. You have a feeling that you should be extra careful with the thorns. Emerald necklace. This expensive-looking necklace features a large gemstone.
There is a requirement for support staff for every person that's connected via one of these pods. They're not moving around. They're unconscious. They're in a pod. Something has to medically keep them alive, their body's alive.
What's this?
Otherwise, their subconscious is going to go away and they're going to disappear from
Must mean
the
something.
virtual reality as well, right? So now this photo puzzle is a good example of what we've talked about, that there are more than one virtual model running, more than one virtual server running. Sebastian takes a picture here. This is not unlike looking through a mirror, right? And that taking that picture has created a doorway into another virtual server, specifically into Stefano's virtual server. Of course, Sebastian still doesn't know that it's named Stefano, but it doesn't really matter that we're using it here. But you can tell that we're now in Stefano's virtual server. This is much like moving through a mirror into Sebastian's room. So what's on the walls, the form and shape and everything here is more driven by Sebastian's, is not driven by Sebastian the way Sebastian's room is. It's driven by Stefano in much the same way that Sebastian's room is driven by Sebastian. This is a clear representation of the virtual servers that we've been talking about in earlier episodes. You can see that Stefano's virtual space is not necessarily as consistent or as common as Sebastian's. The painting at the end of the hall just changed. The length of the hallway seems to morph as we walk down it, run down it. Doors that wouldn't open before start to open.
Playing with me.
The landscape is shifting almost kind of on a continual basis. This is representing a disturbed or psychotic mind versus the more stable version of reality in Sebastian's room. But now remember, Sebastian has his own little quirks, right? Because Tatiana would not normally have been part of that construct. She's been added by Sebastian, and the world shifts when he goes to talk to her, right? It shifts back to Beacon. So everybody has the little quirks.
It is my work, after all. Death preserved on silver nitrate, like a fly in amber. Beautiful.
Now that conversation that was muffled and the voices were distorted because we were hearing it through walls, that was Stefano and somebody else who will remain unnamed at this time. But it shows that there are two minds involved here. And we've already theorized that for Stefano to have a virtual space.
Photo of murdered Mobius operative. The Mobius agent in the lobby of City Hall turned into another frozen display. Poor son of a bitch. If he wasn't dead before he got thrown off there, he will be if he ever lands.
Another one. But what's he after?
Now, we've already theorized that for Stefano to have his own virtual space, the way Sebastian has his own virtual space, his own virtual server, running on STEM, that has to be granted by an administrator level access. So somebody high up in Mobius has to have given Stefano this capability. Or maybe Stefano has it himself. We don't really know exactly who Stefano is at this point. But if we're theorizing that Stefano is just another member of Union, then that access has to have been granted to him the same way the access was granted to Sebastian. Not necessarily by the same person, but by the same mechanism, right? Through some sort of administrative authority on the STEM system. And that could be the voice that we were hearing in that muffled, distorted conversation about how great the artwork was. We know what Stefano thinks of his artwork, right? Those frozen in time, the same way a camera freezes a moment in time on a picture, on a photograph. He has now extended that to the ability to freeze time around the subject of the camera. Sebastian's been caught in that a couple of times by tripwires, and we see, for instance, when we came into City Hall, we saw that Mobius operative floating in space with blood coming off of him. We saw the head of the rescue team caught in one of those with his head exploding over and over again. So Stefano has taken his photographic abilities, his photographic art, and extended it out. Now, these don't look like they were created by Stefano. There's a note that we unfortunately can't show you in this room that would say that Stefano thought they were too beautiful to leave on the streets of Union, that they needed to be displayed. And so he's moved them here into his art gallery. And that he's happy to see that there's somebody else, there's another artist for him to interact with. And that's presumably is the person that we heard in that conversation. And I'm going to go as far as to say, presumably, that's the person that gave Stefano the administrative access to create his own virtual space, the art gallery. But you can see now we're back in Union again. We're back in City Hall. And so Stefano is somehow has powers that
This has to be
Sebastian doesn't have. This part of Sebastian's world is not blending into this world. He travels between the virtual server and this main server. Stefano seems to be blurring that line. That's an administrative power that Sebastian doesn't seem to have. Pay close attention to this cutscene with Stefano.
You've been searching for me for so long, so I have come. But wait, it's not me you seek, is it? No, it's the girl. I should be offended. But how can I be? You're not the only person who wants her power. There is another, one far more deserving. One who can offer rewards you could never imagine. So sorry, but you've been outbid. Fear radiates from you. It's beautiful, but not yet finished. I am Stefano, and now you are my art.
Look at the force of will of Sebastian, able to break out of that time prison. Now, Stefano didn't kill him. Maybe other people could break out of their time prisons if they were still alive. And meet Obscura.
Meet my beautiful Obscura.
Restart sequence.
You gotta be kidding me.
Sequence will complete in 90 seconds.
So important things in that conversation. Stefano said there was somebody else that was seeking her power, meaning Lily's power, the power of the core. That someone far more worthy, someone who could offer rewards that Sebastian couldn't imagine. My theory is that those rewards are exactly what we were just talking about. Administrative ability to create, for instance, your own virtual space. Administrative gift that was given to Stefano for some sort of service. Presumably maybe for finding Lily, right? Because he's saying that the person wants Lily the same way Sebastian wants Lily. Stefano does not know who Sebastian is. He does not realize that what Sebastian's desire to find Lily is nothing like anybody else's. It can't be, because Sebastian is her one and only father, right? That's his daughter. His desire to find Lily has nothing to do with power. It has nothing to do with anything other than I want my daughter and I want her to be saved. So Sebastian is not what Stefano is thinking he is. He's not after Lily for some sort of power. He's not here pursuing Lily because of power. He's here pursuing Lily because he wants to save his daughter. But Stefano says there's somebody else that has more deserving because they can offer greater rewards than Sebastian could ever imagine. To me, those rewards are, like I said, the ability to create a virtual server, his own art gallery, if you will, and apparently even the ability to modify reality within STEM, within the Union portion of STEM itself. And you can see we were working very hard. We were testing a theory that maybe you could actually kill Obscura here. You can't. I mean, clearly we've had her down on the ground several times, overwhelming her with shotguns and handguns, even knife strikes. But it doesn't matter. You cannot kill her here, no matter what you do to her. The only thing to do here is to get that countdown to finish. And so you want to keep her distracted while the timer is counting. And you need to find her as quickly as possible when she has stopped the timer by taking a picture of the field emitter. Our health allows us to tank a lot of that damage, so, I mean, we're barely hurt. But now you see the power of the Stable Field Emitter. Stefano's ability to warp Union's model. The model of Union... The model of Union would not include something like Obscura. That could not exist inside the model.
Stabilization
And so a Stable Field Emitter is removing that
my own ass.
as not being part of the
Where am I
model.
supposed
It's
to be
removed.
now?
As not being
If
part
he's
of what would be
gone,
acceptable
leave
in the
Lily
model.
here.
It's being removed.
Where did he take her? Should give Kim an update
I mean,
about this.
This episode has been so great for showcasing our theory of virtual servers through this,
Shit.
through the movement
I'll get a
through
signal
Stefano's
outside.
art galleries, as well as our theory of the model sitting beside the core and how that model is working and how it gets updated by the core rather than controlled by the core. Stable field emitters. It's all been almost a verbatim restatement of our thesis, right? We only got to talk a little bit so far about the support staff that would be required to house 20,000 people connected in pods. That document that was on, we didn't get to show you again, but it was on. It would have been on the screen inside the room where the model was being built of Union. There are going to be 20,000 people inside Union, and in that document, they're talking about needing to expand the pod production to meet the growing need of the people being connected to Union. That's a real world constraint, right? Because you now have to provide full medical service. If you think of a person that's in a coma in a hospital, they may or may not be on life support, something breathing for them, but their body has to receive nutrition, their muscles have to be exercised, their waste has to be taken care of. They can't lay stale and stagnant in a single location. So there's a lot of care that goes into taking care of a person who's unconscious. And everybody inside of Union would be indefinitely unconscious, right? We talked to that damsel in distress a few episodes ago that we rescued from the zombies. She's in here. She doesn't know anything about Mobius. She doesn't know anything about what's going on. She went to do a sleep study. When she went to sleep, she woke up inside Union, married to a person she doesn't know, calling her by a name she doesn't know. So that entire life of these people are now going to be consumed inside STEM. They have to be cared for. Now that's a large draw on resources in the real world. Real nurses, real doctors overseeing the health and physical care of the bodies that are laying unconscious in pods. At the very end of the last episode, well, not the very, very end, but towards the end of the last episode, we read a document that said that they wanted to turn on a wireless stem. And one of the things they said that would remove the need for pods.
Some kind of sick joke.
But it is, unfortunately, we still did not get to cover it completely in this episode. The remainder of this episode is going to be getting out of City Hall. We're going to find a key. That's about the only exciting thing that's going to happen in the rest of this episode is we find a key and we get out of City Hall. As we leave at City Hall, the video will end. So we're not going to have time to fully go into that document. Again, I know I promised that we would cover it in a later episode. Well, that later episode will be, it's going to have to be the next episode because we just couldn't quite get to it here because so much of our thesis on the models was playing out in front of our eyes. But in that final document that we found in the last episode, it talked about a wireless stem being broadcast from every corner of the planet. And it talked about the citizens of Union, not in terms of people, but as in terms of machinery, exabytes of processing power and memory storage. Talked about as if they were a computer system themselves. I want to throw this out there and I want you to think about it between now and when you get to watch the next episode later in a couple of days. But they're not talking about Union as a place that they're going to live, as a place that is in and of itself the goal. The goal is not union. The goal is not to provide Mobius members of Mobius, some elite society members. It's not to provide them with a place to live. That's not the goal. The goal is to use union as a tool. That's a dark place to go. But how are they looking at this as a tool? They're talking about union as throughput, processing capacity, and memory storage, the same way you would talk about a core. So if you think of Lily as the core of union, then think of union as the core for this wireless stem that they're going to turn on, that the signal is going to be broadcast to every corner of the planet. They're planning to use the 20,000 people connected to the union, living inside union, living their lives wholly inside union. They're planning to use those 20,000 people to control the entire world. And you say, well, that's dark. Okay, but now let's break down what that would actually mean. What could that possibly look like? Well, if one person, Lily, has the processing throughput power and memory storage, the 100 exabytes needed to control 20,000, the virtual reality system, the entire virtual reality system of 20,000 people. If you then took 20,000 people, so that's 20,000 times Lily, right? So 20,000 times Lily. So 20,000 times 20,000 is 400 million. Do you see the problem? I mean, even in 2017, there were 7.6 billion people on the planet. Today, in 2026, there's 8.3 billion. We'll just call it a nice round, even 8 billion people. They're planning to control the lives of 8 billion people with the processing capacity of 400,000 people. If you took the literal connection of Lily being one core and 20,000 people being 20,000 times that size. They're not trying to build union for the entire world. And if you think about what we were just talking about, the human lives, the human bodies that are tied up inside of pods, and the support staff, the medical staff that it's going to require to keep those 20,000 people alive, think about what that would mean for the world. If the entire world were to go unconscious, who's going to care for the bodies? The only people that are going to be excluded from that are the people with cerebral chips. That's what that document said, right? They would be immune to the thing. Do you think Mobius wants that role of caretaker for 8 billion people? I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you in the next episode.